بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
A reckless move, cried numerous nations around the world. Violence will erupt, they warned. But Trump, scornful of world opinion, made his historical decision.
I have determined that it is time to officially recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. While previous presidents have made this a major campaign promise, they failed to deliver. Today, I am delivering.
To whom? Those deplorables who prefer America first? They certainly didn't vote Israel first. This crowd did.
When I become president, the days of treating Israel like a second-class citizen will end on day one. We will move the American embassy to the eternal capital of the Jewish people, Jerusalem.
I grew up as a Jew and know something about campaign promises to the Israel lobby. Cash in advance always expects cash back on delivery.
Through all of these years, presidents representing the United States have declined to officially recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital. In fact, we have declined to acknowledge any Israeli capital at all.
Au contraire. A dog off his leash can pee in all the wrong places.
What's the capital of Israel?
Capital of Israel that I go to, sir, is Tel Aviv, because that's where all their government people are. But
Do you agree with me that the capital of Israel is Jerusalem?
sir, right now I stick with the U.S. policy.
Okay. Do you support moving the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem?
I would defer to the nominee for Secretary of State on that, sir.
Tillerson, he got a gag in his mouth, but Kushner got a megaphone.
When we started the process of looking at how to create the peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians, the first thing a lot of people told us was that it wasn't the right time. The conditions weren't right after years of distrust.
Well, I'm happy you mentioned trust, because there's no trust between the sides at all. You managed to build trust on the Israeli side. I know you're working hard on building trust on the Palestinian side. But frankly, it's all going to end up with the mediator, you.
As Mossad's mole in the White House? As the uber-zuber Zionist behind Trump's embassy move? It's been the art of the con all along to let Bibsy dump the two-state solution under the cover of the Trump White House.
And Mr. Prime Minister, did you come here tonight to tell the President that you are backing off the two-state solution? Thank you.
Why the head rolling, Bibsy? Me give up the two-state solution? Trump to the rescue.
So I'm looking at two-state and one-state, and I like the one that both parties like. I'm very happy with the one that both parties like. I can live with either one.
Abandon all hope, all ye Palestinians who enter here. Quote, Trump has delivered a message to the Palestinian people. The two-state solution is over, said Saeb Erekat, chief Palestinian peace negotiator. How many Jews does it take to tell 6 lies in just a few seconds? Only one.
Iran seeks to annihilate Israel. It says so openly. It seeks to conquer the Middle East. It threatens Europe. It threatens the West. It threatens the world.
How about Iran threatens Mars, even though its missiles can barely reach Milan? Tell me, if Europe's ramping up trade with Iran ever since the nuke deal, where's the threat? It's good business that Trump's rejecting. So much for America first. And how many Jews does it take to tout the lie of the century? Again, only one.
I plan to speak soon with President Trump about how to counter the threat of the Iranian regime, which calls for Israel's destruction.
Never did.
This idea that Iran wants to wipe Israel out. Now, that's a common trope that is put about by a lot of people in Israel, a lot of people in the United States.
They didn't say we'll wipe it out, you're right. They didn't say we'll wipe it out, you're right.
When Ahmadinejad said, the regime occupying Jerusalem must vanish from the page of time, he was anticipating Israel's evident demise. In other words, this too shall pass. Yet, in Israel's quest to survive, an unnatural creature amidst long-established Muslim countries, it pursues perpetual war for perpetual pandemonium. Iran is now Israel's main target. With growing influence in Iraq, its alliance with Assad, and support of Hezbollah, Iran brings Israeli hegemony in the Middle East to a screeching halt. It's an axis of resistance that Jews fear, with Iran its main player. And Israel wants to wipe this resistor off the face of the earth. Enter Michael Flynn, Trump's national security commando, with his finger on the trigger.
Iran continues to threaten U.S. friends and allies in the region. The Obama administration failed to respond adequately to Tehran's malign actions, including weapons transfers, support for terrorism, and other violations of international norms.
It sounds like America. But warmongers like Flynn can see the forest for the Jewish trees.
As of today, we are officially putting Iran on notice.
That's Israel's line, and those are fighting words. But who's going to fight? Israel? Saudi Arabia? They'll fly a few bombers, hit Iran's nuclear power plants that Russia built, and fly safely back to Haifa and Jeddah. But U.S. troops will do the dirty work. Only the Goys die young when waging wars for the Jews. Now, when told that Rouhani warned those who threatened Iran would live to regret it, Trump shot back. He better be careful. Au contraire. Trump better be careful before he turns the Middle East into a blazing inferno. Iran is not going to take it lying down. Trump's playing with fire that will spread all the way to gas pumps on Main Street, USA. With $15 a gallon at the pump, no matter how many jobs Trump brings back, America will be driving on empty. But that's okay with Jared Kushner, Trump's Jewish son-in-law and senior advisor. He's a billionaire, and once he gets his war for Israel against Iran, and lots of Goys dying young, he'll be eating breakfast in bed in Manhattan.
Why so many Saudis? It's suspicious. And why these middle-of-the-road Saudis? The answer is because Saudi Arabia, the government of Saudi Arabia, has a friendly relationship with the United States. In fact, there is something common between the state of Saudi Arabia and the state of Israel which would surprise you. They are sisters. The same forces who work for the establishment of the state of Israel are the same forces who work for the establishment of the state of Saudi Arabia. The same forces who have kept Israel alive today and guaranteed Israel's security are the same forces who have kept Saudi Arabia alive today and has guaranteed Saudi Arabia's security. And when the state of Israel is to be destroyed, Saudi Arabia also goes down into the garbage bin. They're sisters. And the September 11 attack on America is in many respects a parallel to another attack which had occurred many years earlier. There's a parallel between the two. That one was in the summer of 1914, okay? The assassination of the Grand Duke Franz Ferdinand in Sarajevo. And that attack, that act of terrorism, launched the First World War, the big war. Similarly, September the 11th, the same forces at work in the summer of 1914 are the same forces now at work, September the 11th. With that attack in Sarajevo, Britain, which was the ruling state in the world, now during the First World War, has to yield to another ruling state, namely the United States of America. If you don't understand, go and read your history. Now with September the 11th, the attack is now on the United States to bring down the United States as the ruling state in the world. But in the process of bringing it down, the United States have some very important work to do for Israel. I can identify tonight two very important things that the United States has to do for Israel. There are many more, but there's no need to do more than simply two. In order for Israel to succeed the United States as a ruling state in the world, not only must the US economy collapse and the US dollar collapse, and when the US dollar collapses, it brings down the whole world of paper money with it, and if you don't believe me, just wait. Just wait. Not only must the United States collapse its economy and its money, but in addition, Israel has to wage a big war, which even non-Muslim political analysts are now anticipating. A big war. Even Jews now within Israel, I'm getting emails, they are now understanding that there's something big about to happen. And they're warning the world about it. Of course, it's too late now. Israel has to wage this big war, which is already planned long ago. And the territory of the state of Israel will dramatically expand. And the Palestinian problem will be solved because they'll be exported out. That is the massive human rights crime that the Israeli academics are now anticipating and warning the world about. But in addition, in order for Israel to become the ruling state in the world, not only must she take control of all of this territory, she must also control the oil of the Middle East. Saudi oil, Iraqi oil, Kuwaiti oil, Gulf oil. But I don't see Israel taking Iranian oil. I don't see Israel touching the Iranian oil. Now that's going to be a very, very important event in world affairs. If Israel takes control of this oil, Israel will have her hands on the throat of the world. Not so much Britain and the United States, because Britain has North Sea oil. The United States has a lot of oil, sufficient to meet its domestic consumption. And so who is going to have Israel at their throats? The answer, Europe, Japan, and the rest of the world dependent upon Middle East oil, but particularly Europe and Japan. Which is why at this moment you will notice a lot of strange noises coming out of Europe in hostility to the United States. Because the Europeans are beginning to open their eyes and now beginning to slowly understand what we knew all along. Yes. This is why the German minister made a statement concerning Mr. Bush and acting in a way like Hitler acted. It's not by accident. But Israel has a PhD in deception because it's Dajjal at the back of this. the mastermind. And Israel would not want to wage a big war and appear to the world naked, clearly, as an aggressor. No, that's not deception. Israel has to wage her big war and make it appear as though she was only defending herself. The only Muslim I know of who has had the capacity to be able to penetrate the deception that has been going on all these years, the only one I know of, was a man who never went to Al-Azhar University. Now, he wasn't a Sheikh. His name was Malcolm X. He's the only man I know of who had that eyes wish to see and could clearly recognize the strategy and the deception. Read Malcolm X. How is Israel going to launch this big war and yet get away from being perceived by the whole of humanity as the aggressor, blatant aggression? You have to come with a good strategy. And as the flames of the new intifada emerge, you must keep it burning by committing upon the Palestinian people more and more atrocities that drive them into a greater and greater rage. This is planning, this is strategy, this is not happening by accident. As Israel unleashes this barbaric oppression upon the Palestinian people, you must have a television station which you plant amongst them, which will cover this, that your Egyptian television would not cover, and your Jordanian government would not allow on Jordanian television, so you create something called Al Jazeera. And the Arab masses believe Al Jazeera is their station. This is the only place in the world we can get authentic information, Al Jazeera. So Al Jazeera is now used to portray all the atrocities. And so around the Arab world, the masses only have to tune into Al Jazeera and they know what's happening. And so the Arab masses become more and more angry, more and more enraged. And guess who begins to tremble now? The governments which are pro-American. The governments which have entered into peace treaties with Israel. These are the ones who are now trembling because their people are becoming more and more enraged.